Why do so many people consider Cedric Coward to be the steal of the first round? The Memphis Grizzlies got him with the 11th pick, and he brings so much to the table. He is an exceptional player, and today we're diving into his game film, talking about what he's going to bring to the Grizzlies and why he was such a good pick.
He's trying to push the pace, behind the back, kicks it out. Coward lines up an open triple and got it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back into Scout Team Sports. Today, like you saw in the intro, we are talking Cedric Coward. Now, so many folks are high on this guy, myself included, but he is a bit of a man of mystery. So he spent last season at Washington State, was only there for about 6 games before getting hurt with a shoulder injury. And prior to that, he played some time at a lower level of competition, even starting his career off against D3 opponents at a D3 school. But there's a lot on tape that suggests he is not just going to be an effective NBA player, but potentially a standout one. So what we're going to do, we have all of the game film assembled. We're going to jump right in and talk about why Cedric Coward can be such an impactful piece for the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, where he looks most poised to make an immediate impact is with his shooting. So last year at Washington State, given it's a smaller sample size, he still shot 40% from 3, and the year before that was putting up comparable numbers. Now, he's a long, rangy athlete, but his jump shot looks incredibly fluid, and it just looks like an NBA jump shot as you see it. Now, he's pretty comfortable off the dribble. He's comfortable as a catch-and-shoot guy. But what I like most about him is you see him relocate on the perimeter very well. And at the NBA level, that's so important because you have to be able to make plays off of other playmakers. And there's an abundance of those in the league. And so when Cedric Coward steps in, he is smart enough and has a high enough basketball IQ to relocate as action happens in front of him. So you're seeing multiple clips here of when he's taking a few steps to the right or left to get himself just a little bit more open. And his ability to be a catch-and-shoot, spot-up shooter makes him a threat and a contender to play some minutes. So I started to get really intrigued with Cedric Coward when I started to go back in his game film and check him out at some previous stops. And so when I looked at his time at Eastern Washington, specifically the year before this past one, he spent a lot of time doing some pretty interesting things. So for instance, he was used most that year as a post-up option. But it's not like he was just going down to the post and backing his man down. He is really smart with how he uses his body. So I want to show you some action of him working against smaller guards and using that size to his advantage. As you're going to see these clips throughout this package, I just want you to keep in mind that this is a future lottery pick playing at Eastern Washington against a variety of competition. But he is so smart with how he uses his body and skill set within the game. So guys, a lot of players will refrain from this type of work. It's not the easiest thing to do. It's kind of a will and skill thing. But he is smart. When he gets switched off or has a smaller player guarding him, he uses his body and size well and knows what's going on around the court. And you see him finish, not just bullying guys to the basket, but he's smart. He can fade away if he gets a little bit of position. He seals really, really well and gives his guys great passing lanes. So this isn't even a skill that I think necessarily translates one-to-one to the NBA, but it is something that's going to allow to it proves my point that he is a very smart basketball player who understands the game at a very high level. Now, the last part of his game that I wanted to focus on just a little bit is that he has that innate athleticism that you want to see out of a high draft pick. Some guys have all the offensive skill in the world, but you just don't see those flashes of high level athleticism. And I want to make sure that I highlight that I do think he has those. Now, Coward mostly shows his run and jump athleticism in transition, and he is really good there. Has a knack for getting out and finding a good path, but he's also very quick off of his feet. So you'll see in a few of these, his gather is pretty small for a guy his size. He doesn't require a ton of load up. He can get up and get to the rim like you just saw off that offensive rebound. And he's really savvy at taking angles as well. So again, like most parts of his game, he reads the floor well, is able to make cuts when necessary, takes the right path to the rim, and knows when it's in his wheelhouse to go up and try to finish on somebody. So you don't see a lot of kind of mistimed gathers or guys getting chase downs because he's smart enough to understand what his athletic capabilities are. So it's going to be really fun to watch him and Ja in the same backcourt and do really fun things on the basketball court. So this is an area of his game where, as a Grizzlies fan, you should be excited. Now, as we go into our last film package here, I want to highlight the other aspect of his game that led to him being drafted this high, and that's that he has a really high ceiling as a defender. In his last year at Washington, or at Eastern Washington, he had 50 blocks. So I want to show you the type of impact he can have on the defensive end of the court. Now, if you take nothing else away from these highlight packages, I want you to take away the fact that Coward is an extremely versatile defender. A lot of times when you see wings or guards who rack up blocks on a season, the reason for that is, one of two things. One is like they can really time their jump well on the perimeter, or two, they're really good at chasing things down. But what I was most impressed by watching these clips is that at Eastern Washington, he rotated over a lot and was actually acting as a rim protector. Like, he's not trying to chase something down from behind. He's meeting guys at the rim. He's long enough and quick enough off of his feet to contest shots, block shots, and then play passing lanes and get steals. So you can do a lot of very interesting things with him on the defensive end of the court. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about with Coward before I give you my final thoughts is I am so impressed with him as a person. If you've watched any interviews with him, or if you haven't watched any of those, I just encourage you to do so. The way he answers questions and approaches the game of basketball, for me, is very inspiring, because I think that's a way a lot of people should approach it, specifically when you're getting drafted into the NBA. I think at a minimum, Cedric Coward has a spot in a locker room in the NBA in some form or fashion. And at the end of the day, once his playing career is over, this just seems like a guy who is going to end up in a front office somewhere. So for that reason alone, I just think that guys who have that mindset paired with his athletic ability tend to succeed. And so as I transition here into my final thoughts, it's really simple for me as someone who analyzes basketball, who takes a really deep dive into statistical analysis. If he can stay injury free and hold up from a health perspective, the ceiling is incredibly high for him. And as you talk about his fit with a team like the Memphis Grizzlies, who have a star in Morant, someone that is going to take a ton of attention from defenses and teams that they're playing, it's going to open the door for someone like a Cedric Coward to come in and really exceed expectations right off the bat. Even just as a floor spacing option on the offensive end and as a versatile defender on the other side of the court, he fits in well with so many of their pieces. So the Grizzlies, I think, are setting themselves up to be a successful franchise over the next few years, because at pick 11, you got a guy who could outweigh that spot. Now, is he as purely talented as some of the guys who went in the top 5, top 10? In some cases, yes. In other cases, no, he doesn't have the innate talent that they have. But what I can only impart on you guys enough is that he has that basketball IQ. He knows the game very well. He's a willing defender and a willing teammate. I don't think this is ever going to be a situation where you get caught up in Cedric Coward's ego. So it just fits in well with an organization that needs cohesive pieces. You're in a market in Memphis. I'm a Charlotte Hornets fan, and it's tough in markets like that where it can be hard to attract some of the top talent in the league. You need guys who can buy in, invest in your city, and be someone who you can sign and keep around your organization just outside of that rookie contract. So for those reasons, I'm a huge fan. Grizzlies fans, please feel free to drop a note below. Let me know what you think. I would love to have a discussion in the comments. It's always fun to talk basketball with people who are passionate about their team. If you wouldn't mind, I highly recommend subscribing to the channel. It's just a great way to be able to see the content I'm putting out live time. I'm going to break down a ton of these picks, which ones I like, which ones I'm not a huge fan of. And the more people that get involved in the discussion, the better for me. But ultimately, I always like to end these videos by saying I appreciate each and every person who watches this. I hope you got something out of it. Basketball is a huge passion for me. I played, I coach, and it's just something that I love being able to invest my time in and have meaningful conversations with folks who care about it. So thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you guys on the next one.